The weather across the UK is going to take quite a dramatic turn as we go into next week. And one of the influencing things behind that took place a few days ago, thousands of miles away. More on that link in just a moment. But first of all, let's take a look at the picture and what's going on currently. Big area of high pressure dominating across Scandinavia, and that is controlling our weather too. Very few isobars across the UK, and that means the winds are light, which means the main problem currently is with thick fog patches. But we are going to see a change. The foggy conditions will be replaced as we go through the weekend into next week. And the reason behind that, well, out in the Atlantic, there are low pressure systems waiting. Now, currently, they're being stopped from coming across the UK by this area of high pressure. We call it a blocking high. But as we run through the weekend, very slowly that high pressure ebbs away and low pressure starts to take over across the UK. And certainly by the time we get to Monday and Tuesday, look at the number of isobars on the chart. And again, the more isobars are, the windier it is. Potentially some very strong winds through the early parts of next week. And accompanying those strong winds, there will also be bouts of rain, and it will also turn a bit colder with some wintry showers likely across the north. What's going on? Well, I said at the start that influences thousands of miles away could be playing a part. We need to take a look at the big picture, not only across the Atlantic, but even beyond, and actually to the western side of the United States. Now, we've gone back in time here, and it's this area of low pressure that we're keeping our eye on. Now, it was this low that brought the horrendous flooding to California. I'm not suggesting we're going to get anything like that, but it will influence our weather. Thankfully now, high pressure's moved back into California, so things here at least are a little bit drier. But this low pressure, as I said, is still going to be a feature, and it's going to combine with some warm tropical air across the Caribbean. Here at the moment we've got quite a few intense thunderstorms. Those thunderstorms will merge with this area of low pressure to form into a fairly vicious area of low pressure, bringing more wet, windy and potentially very snowy weather across the US. Now, the heaviest snow this time looks like being a little further west compared to the storm last week in the US. Parts of the eastern side of the Great Lakes could see 30 centimetres of snow, some serious problems with ice also. And on the eastern seaboard itself, well, as the warm air gets dragged up and we see some heavy rain, there is the real risk of flooding here as that heavy rain potentially coincides with some serious snow melt, again from the storm last week. Now, the other thing that this low pressure system is doing, again, if we take a look at the slightly bigger picture, drawing down behind it some very cold air from Canada. And ahead of it, as we've already seen, drawing up some pretty warm air from the Caribbean. And it's that contrast between the very cold and the very warm which drives something high up in the atmosphere, the jet stream. The stronger the contrast, the stronger the jet. And this jet is going to get pretty powerful and then force itself across the Atlantic. So a very strong, active jet stream through the weekend and by next week influencing the UK. It's that strong jet high up in the atmosphere that brings us the low pressure systems and the wet and the windy spells. So, as I said, something that's happened a few days ago, thousands of miles away, will be having an impact on the UK's weather next week.